Hello, and welcome to another episode of Roots and Hoots, a podcast project produced by the Legacy of Hope Foundation. Since 2020, we have been gathering, laughing, learning hard truths, and sharing in community conversations with Indigenous peoples across Turtle Island. Each episode, we learn something new, and we're excited to be sharing this journey with you. Roots and Hoots is about connecting with and celebrating Indigenous people's contributions to their fields of study, work, and cultures. We also speak with allies who share how they are furthering the work of reconciliation in Canada. To learn more about the Legacy of Hope Foundation and the work that we do, please visit legacyofhope.ca.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Roots and Hoots. This week, host Gordon Spence is pleased to be joined by Gabrielle Fayant. Gabrielle is an off-settlement Métis woman from Fishing Lake, Alberta, with a deep passion for cultural resurgence, revitalization, and restitution for Indigenous peoples. As a child, Gabby's mom brought her on a Greyhound bus to Ottawa with the promise of a better future. Gabrielle's journey led her to working with the Aboriginal Healing Foundation, where she learned about the intergenerational trauma and impacts caused by residential schools. Gabrielle is dedicated to her community, supporting Indigenous youth and amplifying grassroots efforts that mobilize the processes of truth and reconciliation. She co-founded the Assembly of Seven Generations and co-manages Adaawewigamig, a social enterprise in Ottawa's Byward market. To learn more, you can check out their website at a7g.ca. Please enjoy this special episode of Roots and Hoots.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Roots and Hoots. My name is Gordon Spence, and my guest today is Gabrielle Fayant. She's from the Fishing Lake Métis Settlement. Hello and good afternoon, Gabrielle. How are you today?
Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here with you.
Yes, good to have you here. Maybe we can start by you talking a little bit about your community. Where are you from? Fishing Lake, Alberta, and tell us a little bit about your family and the community itself.
For sure. So my family is originally from Fishing Lake Métis Settlement. We're a small community in Alberta. Our neighbors are Frog Lake and Onion Lake and Elizabeth Métis Settlement. Really beautiful territory. I'm always proud to be Métis woman from the settlements. My family is the Fayants, of course. My Nokum had 13 children, and they all had a bunch of children, and I'm the youngest of all of the grandchildren. So even though I'm in my 30s, I still get treated like the little baby of the family. But when I was a little kid, my mom took me on a Greyhound bus and brought me all the way to Ottawa. Really in hopes of having a better future for myself. And I've been here in unceded surrendered Algonquin territory for a big portion of my life.
So most of the time you on the Greyhound bus, you came here and you stayed here?
Yeah, it took us 3 days on the Greyhound to get here. And yeah, I've pretty much been here ever since. And it's been really some tough years being so far away from my family and my homelands. But I really try my best to be in contact with my family, go back as much as I can, and also just support the local community as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the feeling. I've been here for most of my adult life too, and you must go back once in a while.
Yeah, I go back pretty often. I was actually just back in Fishing Lake not too long ago, and we're working on some hides. So I learned how to do hide tanning while I've been here.
Hide? Like what kind of hide?
Like moose hides,
hide.
deer hides, any kind of hides.
Yeah.
And we were able to work on some in Fishing Lake. And I was told that was the first hide that we had worked on in the community in over 30 years. So really excited that I could learn some things away from my homelands that I could bring back to the community as well.
Yeah. What is the population of Fishing Lake?
Yeah, so it's about 400 to 500 folks. A lot of folks also we leave the community to find more opportunities. there is limited funding that goes to our settlements, very limited in terms of medical services. And a lot of our children have to leave once we reach about grade 6 or grade 8.
Yeah. Would you say the population is growing or decreasing?
That's a good question. I think in terms of like our kinship and our bloodlines, it is increasing. However, there is a lot more folks that do have to end up leaving the settlements, which is really unfortunate. We'd love that, our families and our kinship would stay on our homelands. And I'm like an example of that. I always wish like I could go back home and live there and support the community in those ways. But
I feel the same way.
yeah. It's a really interesting feeling, eh?
It's kind of like it's a beautiful place, but I personally I've been away from my community for so long that it's not for me anymore. I like going there, visiting the family and friends, but I don't think I could live there. I was in a like I was talking to you earlier about this community my first community as a kid. Before they sent me off to residence, I would live there for about the first 7 years of my life, and that community is actually was kind of mixed community of Métis and First Nations and white people.
Cool.
But recently, I spoke to some people about it. Most people have left the community, and it's virtually a ghost town now. And they had to shut the school down because hardly anybody. They had like four kids going to school. From 100. So.
Yeah.
Did any of your family go to residential school or relatives?
Yeah, so
You probably didn't, though.
No, I did not. I did not. We have quite a few experiences in our family of residential schools, day schools, convents, industrial schools too.
Wow. Yeah.
It's impacted our family quite intensely, and I actually never knew about any of this until I was a summer student and I started working at the Aboriginal Healing Foundation.
Yes.
And that's where I started learning about the intergenerational impacts of residential schools.
Yeah.
And at the time, I did drink a lot. I used to be quite a intense, like I would consider myself an alcoholic in a lot of ways. And I also knew that I had these mental health concerns, and I never knew like how it happened, how they came about. And then I started learning about the intergenerational traumas, and it just opened my eyes completely. And then I started talking about residential schools and these experiences with my family. And, I don't really feel like Métis, especially in our family and the settlements, have really ever had their story truly heard. And so I think a lot of Métis, where I come from, we've normalized those experiences and we've been desensitized to violence. Yeah. And so when I talk to my aunties about it, they say, oh yeah, that happened back in the day. It's okay.
Yeah.
That happened to us. It's okay. And, I'd always try to remind them like, no, it's not okay. Like you deserve justice. And, like I just try to reinforce like positive values about who they are, because they're like such amazing, strong Métis women. So a lot of the stories died when my aunties and uncles started passing away. But what we do know for sure is that one of my great grandmas, so my chapan, she ran away from Capel Residential School. And we looked at her records, and on the records, you could see that she would leave quite often. Like she'd run away and then they would say she came back. And I guess the last time she left, they just put that she went on a vacation.
Oh,
and
really?
and that's the last time she was on their records. So I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but I always think like she just ran away, and she was able to escape whatever was happening there.
Yeah.
And then recently one of my uncles started talking about his experience at residential schools, But he's like almost in his 90s, and he only started talking about that maybe like 3 years ago. So that's how long a lot of our family had, pushed down these experiences. And then, of course, there's the stories of my aunties that got picked up and were put in convents and would write home, like write about their experience at the convents. And those letters would never make it home. So eventually one of my other aunties, she went to go check out that convent because she was like, I haven't heard from my sister in so long, and that's not like my sister at all. And then I guess when she showed up at that convent, my auntie that was put there, she asked for help. And so they broke her out of the school, and they just took her back to Fishing Lake. And they must have only been in their teenage years, both of them. So just two young teenage women trying to get away from this convent. So those are just some of the experiences that we know the stories of.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you about the culture like today. I know that things are different now, probably, but along with the ongoing lasting impacts, and they exist probably below the surface more. But on the positive side, tell me about your culture, your community. Like what do you guys do for celebrating, and what do you guys do for? You play. I know Métis people like to jig and like to fill, right? Like,
definitely.
You must have a summer festival or something like that.
Yeah, so I actually was just at our Métis Settlement's General Council Christmas party.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. There's, of course, jigging, some beautiful jigging and fiddling. There's also a beautiful, like, artisan market.
Yeah.
So, we have some beautiful artists and beaters and ribbon skirt makers. And then I think the funniest part of everything was we had a moose call competition.
Yes.
And so even like some of our leadership, got up there and they got all competitive and doing their best moose calls. And so it was really cool to like see that connection, that even though I'm so far away from my homelands, I was able to like work with the moose hides. And, I've heard moose hide calls over here too. And, I felt like really good that my path was on the right one, and they're just kind of like coming together in a beautiful way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some communities have like competitions like trap setting, tea boiling, and, ice fishing derbies and stuff like that. Kind of traditional lines of stuff, right? Activities.
Yeah, there's actually a really beautiful woman, Karen Telford, and you might know Blake Desjardins. He's a MP in Edmonton Greenbatch. But he's from Fishing Lake, and that's Karen's brother. But Karen lives in Fishing Lake, and she does culture days, and she's been organizing women's retreats on her land, and she also does like bush survival skills and ice fishing. We really like to do net fishing in particular. And that's where I go to work on moose hides when I'm in town. And she does like a really beautiful job as well of like medicine picking and like just a strong understanding of the homelands.
Yeah, that's kind of like relearning culture for the young people anyways, revitalization of their cultures.
Yeah, definitely.
There's a lot of that going on across Canada. I find like the resurgence of cultures and culture camps and language revitalization.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I love working on hides, like I said. And so even like yesterday, I was taking some of the youth out and we were working on a deer hide that we have. And even though we're all from different places, because we live here in Ottawa, some of us, like myself, I'm Métis, and then we also have some OG Cree and some Inuit, and we're all coming together in this urban Indigenous environment to work on this hide together. So I find that those land-based skills and learning, it's really building community in a really strong way.
So you work with youth and elders. What do you do at these gatherings? Like you mentioned some of the things already, traditional cultural activities.
Yeah, so we used to do elders and youth gatherings with our youth organization, A7G. And we'd have just like story time, you know, just listening to the elders. We would do some honoring of the elders that really help us out in the community. Like we blanketed a few of like the elders that just sit with us. And I think that there's a bit of like this like, bringing elders together and youth, that it kind of becomes romanticized. When for me, like the strongest ways to connect with elders is just sitting with them, having tea, even asking them like, hey, do you need help with anything? Like, do you need help, like even mowing the lawn, like raking the leaves? And from there, that's how you build that relationship.
It's trusting, eh?
Yeah, and there has to be a reciprocal relationship.
Yeah.
It can't just be elders, asking for their knowledge. Young people also have to remind themselves that they have to give back to the elders too.
Yeah.
And that's how I was taught about as we're young people, we're helpers. And so what does that mean?
Yeah.
It means we have to be cooking and serving the community and giving back because we're young and we're able-bodied.
Right. And elders don't usually say a lot of things, right? They're pretty quiet, and
Yeah.
you gotta have to pry the information out of them.
Yeah, you really gotta observe.
Yeah, observe, yeah.
And I think that that's something that has kind of hurt our learning abilities, is that when we go in schools, we're taught to just sit there, listen, and look at the front of the board. But when we think about Indigenous like knowledge exchange, it's really about like getting your hands dirty, making mistakes, and like observing. And that's how you get the answers. Not necessarily like, here's all the answers on a cheat sheet. So I hope that more and more people kind of understand that. It does take a lot of humility to get knowledge in that way. But I hope there's more of a understanding. And I think the best teacher I've ever had in that area is Pinook. He's like an Algonquin canoe builder, and he just works away. He won't even talk to you sometimes. And if you're not in that headspace to understand that that's how you receive knowledge, then you'll miss the whole day.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Ayaya songs are about our histories. Ayaya is an Inuit-owned firm that tells our stories in many languages across Canada. They are experts in publishing children's books, usually in syllabics, and they do large multi-language projects like the reports of the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Commission. If you need help getting your stories into classrooms or homes in Cree, Inuktitut, or other Indigenous languages, check them out at ayaya.ca. That's ayaya.ca. Ayaya is a proud sponsor of the Roots and Hoots podcast.
You live here, and where do you work out of?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So I live here. We have like our youth organization, A7G, and we also have a storefront in the market. So I usually work a lot out of the storefront, but we're like super grassroots. So
Okay.
I don't actually have like an office anywhere
So
except
you
for
do
my
things different places.
yeah,
Okay.
my kitchen table is my
Okay.
office.
So you're a counselor in the area of healing and wellness, and do you find that this is a good connection to what you do? It helps. Must help a lot.
Oh yeah, it helps tremendously.
You went to college for this?
Yeah, I got a diploma in counseling and healing and wellness from an Indigenous perspective. So that's something like I actually went to university and I really was interested in psychology because I really like to learn about like why people do and think the way they do. But what I found when I was in university is it didn't really fit with my understanding of things. And so I wanted to understand like from an Indigenous perspective. I seen like healing through ceremonies, through drumming, through a cultural land-based activities. And so I really immersed myself in that kind of learning. And then luckily this program came along and I was able to connect all the dots. And yeah, working with young people, you have to have a really strong understanding of when to support and when to take a step back, and what exactly they might be needing, because there is a lot of healing that can come through land-based work and ceremonies, but there's also professional support that folks might need as well. And there might be peer-to-peer support that folks might need. So there's like so many different perspectives that you need to kind of tap into.
Yeah. You're a co-founder of an Indigenous youth organization called the Assembly of Seven Generations. Tell us about this organization and what it does.
Yeah, so we're a grassroots Indigenous youth organization. We're here in Ottawa. We started actually out from Idle No More.
Okay.
Yeah, Idle No More was like a really big spark for us. And we've seen so many young people mobilizing, but we didn't really see young people having their voices heard. And so we knew that we wanted to amplify the voices of youth. And so that's how we started A7G. We really it was just like an idea, a need, something where we seen like, just like gaps that we wanted to help support youth from falling into. And we just started mobilizing. We started doing like almost like an entrepreneurship program. And then we also started doing our elders and youth events. And then from there, we started doing our round dance. And we just celebrated our 8th annual round dance on February 14th.
Where was this?
It was at the Westin.
Okay, the Westin.
Yeah, so right
That's a
downtown.
little different,
Yeah. We usually work with that big open area in Lansdowne. That's we really love going there, but they're under renovation this year.
Yeah.
So we really like going to Lansdowne because we're able to do like our own cooking. And so we're able to bring in like traditional foods and do that. Whereas at Westin, you have to use their caterers.
Yeah.
So definitely a different vibe, but we had a good time.
Yeah.
And the community came out and also had a really good time too.
Are there like a lot of Indigenous youth in Ottawa?
I would say so.
Yeah.
Some of the...
Couple 100,000?
Oh, definitely like over a couple thousand.
Really?
It's hard to find each other in this town, I find.
That's right, yeah. So
And-
it's kind of a weird place. In that sense,
is.
there's
It
no
is.
real hub. Like,
Yeah.
I guess the Friendship Center, but you have to know the place, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing about Ottawa is like you have to know certain people. But I think the thing that we don't talk enough about is how Ottawa is actually like a pipeline for child welfare. So a lot of young people from Nunavut are brought down to Ottawa, as well as from Northern Ontario. They're all brought to Ottawa. And if you don't go in these group homes and look for them, it's really hard to find the young people. And so there's always a concern there about, how well are these young people doing? And we often know that not very well based on statistics and outcomes of when they leave child welfare, that they haven't been treated well. So that's always like something that's really heavy on our minds. And we try to work with the Caring Society quite often to just like do what we can to address this really huge problem that we're experiencing right now.
Yeah, I know my brother's a social worker, and he was telling me about when kids are in foster homes, foster care, and they turn 18, they're pretty much just left on their own. Like, and they haven't learned, or they don't know how to support themselves.
Yeah.
Or they struggle through the after 17, when you become 18, you're an adult right now.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it's a challenge for many of them, and sometimes they fall through the cracks, and go the wrong way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there's just like there's only so much we can do too. Like we try our best, and
Well, it's people like you that make a difference in their lives, It's like you do make a difference in a lot of young people's lives, I'm sure.
Thanks. I hope so. It's a lot of hard work, a lot of unrecognized work as well.
Yeah.
A lot of like volunteer work that goes into this, like a lot of unpaid labor, trying to address these like colonial systems, and then the burdens placed on our community. It's like, it just feels like impossible sometimes, but there's a lot of good work that's happening, and we have seen, like, from our public events, that's where people come out and they have a good time. And we just did our first powwow this past September, and we got a lot of good feedback. And I know for sure that there's like youth that are in group homes or in child welfare that were able to come out and maybe it's their first powwow too. And so that, gives us a little bit of hope.
You're also a co-manager of a social enterprise retail store called Adaawewigamig. Adaawewigamig. It's a Cree word, actually. It's just the main store, right? Adaawewigamig is how we pronounce it.
Nice.
What is a social enterprise store?
Yeah, so like I said, with our youth organization, we're really grassroots. And we're grassroots by choice.
When you say grassroots, what do you mean?
We basically mean we're all volunteers. We're like really on the ground, from the ground up.
Okay.
Like we don't have like big funding from the government or anything like that. And we're like that for a reason, because a lot of like you have to sacrifice some of your values sometimes in order to get funding. And so we don't want to do that.
Kind of conform to.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. Exactly. And that's like all part of like the nonprofit industrial complex.
Right.
And so we definitely make things harder on ourselves by doing that. But we also, it gains trust by young people. And even though we don't have a lot of funding, some people have been helping us do this work themselves, like as volunteers for years and years.
Right.
And so it builds really strong relationships. And we're able to mobilize really quickly. And we have a lot of trust from community that we really appreciate. So with all that being said, we're super grassroots, and we know that we can't rely on funding, on government funding or these other places. And so we said, let's just try out opening a store and having a social enterprise where the proceeds would go back to supporting our work. Okay. So then we have more freedom over the funds, right?
Where's your store?
So it's on the Byward Market here in Ottawa.
Wow.
Yeah. So
what's the street at? What's the address?
It's Byward Market Square, 55 Byward Market Square. And we're just beside the chocolate factory, in that big building in the Byward Market.
With the long building with all the shops in it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so we have a little store in there.
They have a lot of small entrepreneurs in there, right?
Like, a lot of little restaurants.
Little shops, too.
And little shops, yeah. And so we're the first Indigenous shop in that area, since probably the last 2 centuries.
Wow. So what's social enterprise mean?
So social enterprise, it's kind of a vague word. It could mean a lot of different things, but for us, it just means a business that's supporting our nonprofit organization.
What do you sell?
So we sell everything you could think of that's made or created by Indigenous folks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we have like beadwork, ribbon skirts. We even have coffee, jams, artwork, clothing. Yeah, and a lot of it is made by Indigenous youth themselves. So we really love that. And a lot of them are also like you like families of youth that we work with.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of really strong sense of community, I find. But we work with all artists across the country.
Yeah. We have a couple of young ladies here that make ribbon skirts, bracelets. Maybe you can connect with them. And, bring up your shop, your store there. And,
totally.
That's cool. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, come by anytime.
Yeah.
And we always have different things in the store.
Yeah.
So it's really like small batches of
Right,
things.
yeah.
And like, like there's not one ribbon skirt that looks the same.
Yeah.
They're all different. The same with our beadwork. And so we work with like authentic Indigenous artists and brands.
So if I come there, can I have some Bannock tea?
You know what's funny? We actually have a candle that's called Bannock and Jam. So that'll be the closest we could get.
Maybe I'll bring some Bannock over. My wife
Yes.
makes great Bannock, so.
Yeah, our staff would love that. They'll probably give you something for free. Do a trade.
Yeah. You mentioned that you're kind of involved in the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action.
Yeah.
Like, what extent are you involved in that?
Yeah, so in 2016, I was appointed as a special advisor to Minister Carolyn Bennett.
Yeah.
And she originally approached us to create an Indigenous youth council for her department. However, like I was here during the closing of the TRC. I worked at the Aboriginal Healing Foundation. And I had also been involved in a lot of youth councils and advisory bodies. And so I know how quickly Indigenous youth are tokenized, especially if you put them in like a huge system like the federal government. And we also knew that we wanted to work on a response to some of the calls to action. And so some of the young people I was also appointed with, we agreed that we actually wanted to work on a response to TRC Call to Action 66. And so 66 talks about multi-year funding for Indigenous youth organizations like A7G that work on reconciliation and healing, as well as building a network of best practices. And so we did a huge report on it. We visited communities. We visited young people. We had a gathering here in Ottawa. We also did like a survey, and we heard from young people. However, our report was shelved almost automatically.
Really?
Yeah. And
Why do you think that?
I just don't think they believed us when we said that this was the best approach. I think that they thought they could do it quicker or easier or for less money.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what I think at the end of the day. And so that's what they tried to do. And essentially, like, there's still no multi-year funding for Indigenous youth groups. And we've had to go to the UN several times. And every time we go, Canada rebuttals us, essentially at an international level, telling us that, just to ignore what the youth are saying because they're working with youth and everything's fine. So it was a lot of hard work. And we actually during that time met with Senator Murray Sinclair Ba. And
The lead senator?
Yeah, that's what he told us, is he's like, he obviously encouraged us to do this work.
Yeah.
But he said, just remember that this work might not happen in your lifetime. And so that's the unfortunate part about this work, is that even though it's so urgent that young people need that support right now, like even every minute that passes, young people need that support. But the colonial systems that exist, just want to do it their way and like keep trucking along like status quo. But like I often think of like survivors of residential schools, and they had so many challenges and survive so much violence that we can't let this stop us.
Yeah.
Like we have to do this work in their honor, and be just as strong as they were.
It's kind of like drawing on some kind of thing to inspire you to keep going.
Yeah, like we did this work through ceremony.
Yeah.
And colonial infrastructures will never understand what that even means. Yeah. And so when we did this work, we started this report through a sweat lodge, and we had pipe ceremony. And one of the young people that was there actually died by suicide while we were working on that report.
Cool.
And so, you know, like, there's nothing that will ever stop us from doing the work that needs to be done, even if we're not funded.
Yeah.
You know, like, I often think that they thought that, oh, we're just not going to fund them and they'll go away.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're still here, like 10 years later, still doing like really, really hard work, really tough work, but also still seeing so much beauty and like inspiring hope in many people to continue on as well.
Well, you're a real inspiration, I think. Yeah. A lot of people are talking about reconciliation and, trying to create a better country. And the word reconciliation comes to mind. What do you think about?
Yeah, like, I always have thought that the truth has not fully been told yet. So we've always jumped ahead too far to reconciliation. You know, that truth part, it still needs work on, like, even for my family, like we mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, like, their stories still haven't been heard. So their truth still hasn't been heard. So how can you reconcile without having all of the information yet? And I really think that, the federal government wanted to just slap a Band-Aid on it and say, we heard enough, let's like squash this, let's move on. But it's just a simple fact, like, we can't get to reconciliation without the truth. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of always where my position has been on it. Yeah.
Well, thanks for taking the time to do this with us, Gabrielle. You're like I said, you're a real inspiration. You're a good, you're an awesome role model.
Thanks.
And thank you so much for coming out here and being with us and talking about what you do with the youth. And the elders.
For sure. Thanks so much for having me. Nanascomotin. Exit.
Yeah. Cree and French mixed together.
Yeah, hopefully you'll be able to come out to the settlement sometime and
we
see
almost
our people.
made it up there. And,
yeah.
We had plans to go up there. We were gonna. I thought it was 7, but there's 8. You said, right?
Yeah.
Métis settlements.
Yeah, there's 8 of us. Yeah, we'll make it happen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for being here.
For sure.
Roots and Hoots is a podcast project produced by the Legacy of Hope Foundation. For episode show notes, please visit the podcast description and make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review. For more information about the work we do, please visit legacyofhope.ca.